I took Morgan fly fishing the first time, and he took me downhill mountain biking for the first time. So I'm definitely the fly fisherman side of the company. I rode some motorcycles growing up, so I know enough to get hurt, but that's about it. But I really enjoy, as we were testing this product, I really enjoy being able to pedal further back and either archery hunt, or primarily what I use it for is like spot hopping fishing. I don't know if you ever fished like a popular river like the Yakima in Washington.
That was John Smigaj sharing some insight into the next big thing in the Trxstle line, the CRC system, the carbon fiber bike system, and John's genius brother, today on the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Hey, how you doing today? Thank you for stopping by the Fly Fishing Show. We've always got a giveaway going on this year, and you can check it out right now, wetflyswing.com/giveaway. We've got good stuff going on all season, so it's a good chance to join the giveaway and win something big. John Smigaj, founder of Trxstle, walks us through the story of starting his fly fishing and gear transport company. John walks us through the benefits of rod carriers today. He schools us on some of the differences between engineer types, and we also find out how my college engineering roommate, this interesting story and the connection. We get a good laugh at this one. So I'm loving this one. Without further ado, here is John Smigaj from Trxstle.com. How's it going, John?
Hey, Dave. How are you?
Good. Thanks for putting this together this morning. We've got a few questions to dig in here on Trxstle and some of the stuff you have going. I know when we started working together a while back, I guess last year, when we first talked, you mentioned a couple of products, at least one that had to do with a bike, and I'm interested to hear more about that. But we're going to dig into the rod carrier you have and everything there as well. Before we get into all that, take us back really quick to the lead of fly fishing, because I like to start there and talk about how you first got into fly fishing.
Sure. Yeah. So I started fly fishing when I was 3. I'm fortunate that I was born in Helena, Montana, and kind of surrounded by a lot of really great trout water, and got introduced by my dad and my uncles, and just sort of got nurtured and put together. I had fortunate to grow up with a cousin really similar age as myself that's also a fanatic in fly fishing. So we sort of came up together doing pretty much just that from a very young age.
There you go. So you've been doing it your whole life. And now your dad had what, just a couple of brothers, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So my dad comes from a huge family. He's got 6 different siblings in total. So I guess 5 siblings, 6 kids, and then a twin sister. And so my cousin's actually the son of his twin sister, if you can follow that.
Oh yeah, son of twin sister. Okay, gotcha.
Shenanigans. Yeah. So yeah, tons of uncles, and all of them fly fish pretty much. So I think there's four uncles plus the ones by marriage, and pretty much everybody either fishes heavily or fly fishes.
Yeah, everybody's into it. No kidding. So is that kind of, for those that haven't been to Helena, is that pretty much the way it is? Like almost everybody is fly fishing there?
Yeah, it seems that way. It's definitely a very popular, we're about 40 minutes south of Craig, on the Missouri River. So, it comes right through town. So it's kind of a trout mecca. Yeah, mountain biking and fly fishing are definitely very, very popular here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So how did you go? So your whole life you've been fly fishing, and then I think you left Helena eventually. Talk about that. Where did you go to school, and then how did you turn back and get back to Montana?
Yeah, so I left Montana when I was pretty young. My parents split up, and I was a military brat, so I moved all over the country and out of country a little bit. But I lived I think I've moved about 35 times.
Whoa.
So yeah, I never spent more than one Christmas at any house, and most of them are different states. So I grew up kind of in Virginia and Washington, D.C. for the younger part of my life. But, as part of the divorce with my parents, I spent pretty much every other summer or every other holiday back here in Helena. So
gotcha.
Although I didn't go to school here, I kind of feel like I grew up here.
Yeah. Yeah, gotcha. Well, what was that like with the 35? I mean, being all over the country for those that maybe haven't done all that sort of moving, was that I mean, there must be some good things and bad about that.
Yeah, I feel, looking back, I think in a lot of ways I was fortunate. I got to experience a lot of different things. Of course, challenging, growing up, moving a lot like that, but definitely got to see a lot of different places and meet a lot of different types of people. So I feel like it kind of helped shape me a little bit as
Hmm.
I, grew up. And then I ended up kind of landing in Olympia, Washington, which is where I went to high school and then college and grad school and met my wife and then finally moved back to Helena a couple years ago.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And along the way, I know you have a degree in engineering, and you got into that. How did you get? Why engineering out of all the things? Because that seems like, for me, I remember I used to know a couple engineers in college, and I remember they were pretty much like one of the guys was like the smartest guy I knew in the whole school, and and he was that guy that could like literally he could smoke weed all day long and then go into the same test that I would take, and he would ace it. And I would like struggle to pass it. So it's like he was just like natural. Is that kind of the way engineers are?
I think as a whole, yes, but I wouldn't put myself in that camp necessarily. I was always sort of a outlier in the engineering school. I was pursuing a career in law enforcement, and I ended up very at the last minute deciding to jump into engineering. It's
Uh huh.
kind of a crazy story, but essentially I didn't really know what engineering was.
Oh wow.
I didn't really come from I came from a family of all military,
Yeah.
individuals. So I was the only one to go to college, and so I didn't really know honestly what engineering was. I ended up talking to a family friend who was a professor at some Ivy League schools and a very successful businessman, and he over a
Huh.
phone call. I still remember it in a gym parking lot over a phone call. He walked me through, like he asked me, like 10 questions, like what I liked doing and what I was good at. And then just very quickly and methodically broke that down into, okay, so here's engineering for a 4-year degree. That's a really good job. Here's the 4 types of engineering. Do you like working with your hands? Like he just, really
Wow.
quickly did all this. And he goes, yeah, I'd say you should do civil or mechanical engineering. And I
Hmm.
just said, okay, I hung up and I went and enrolled in college.
No kidding. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Civil or mechanical. And even that is a like, what is the difference between those two? I mean, does engineering, I mean, there must be so much involved there. But for you, did it feel like once you got into it, it was just like, oh man, this is my wheelhouse. This is pretty easy. Like, I love this stuff.
Sort of, yeah. To be honest, school was actually pretty difficult for me. I got really good grades. I ended up graduating toward the top of my class, but um, so mechanical engineering is like pretty hands-on. It's more,
Mm,
moving parts, whereas civil engineering is more static, right? So like
yeah.
bridges, water systems, right? So that was a benefit because I've always tinkered with engines and motorcycles, and always been pretty handy with building things. I
Uh-huh.
worked construction for a while, and so I think that was really helpful for me. But I can tell you that when I started at a community college, just trying to find a way to get grants to help pay for school. And my little brother, my stepbrother, was in a running start program, which I don't know if you're familiar
No.
with that, but it's basically when high school kids that are really smart get to start going to a community college early,
Oh, gotcha.
right? So he ended up being he's 8 years younger than me. He ends up being in my one of my physics classes with me, and he's exactly what you just described,
Oh,
as
wow.
far as could do whatever he wanted, then come in and ace the test. And I was so frustrating, Dave.
Now take me back there. So wait. Now you said so. Your little brother's 8 years younger than you, and he was in the same class as you.
Yeah, so he was, because I went to school late, because I was pursuing other things originally out of high school, and so yeah, I'm in college. He's in running start, so he's like actually I would guess a sophomore or junior in high school,
Yeah.
and he's in the college level,
Oh,
early
wow.
physics classes and calculus classes with me. Um,
And you're in the same class.
yeah, and he's just kicking my ass.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That
so
is really
it's
cool.
pretty frustrating. I had to remind him that I could still beat him up.
There you go. Well, now what is your brother? Is he still in the field?
Yeah, he ended up getting a degree in physics from the University of Washington. But we kind of all the siblings went into running our own businesses. Actually, he
Oh,
runs
wow.
his own business, and not really in the physics field at all
There you
in
go.
Washington State there. And then I, did this. So
That's amazing. Where does the entrepreneurship, it sounds like, with all your siblings going into it, there must be some tie back. Why do you think everybody was kind of ended up there?
That's a good question. I've thought about that before. I think so. I've had many different father figures, I suppose, growing up. My mom's been married 4 times, so you know, 3, 4 different step parents, and all of them were special forces military.
Oh, wow.
And I think maybe there's just a lot of, kind of nose to the grindstone, outwork your competition type, mentality instilled in us, I think. So perhaps that's where that came from.
Wow, that is cool. Yeah, special. You must have some insight on, we're not going to dig into all that, but that's always interesting and it sounds like, you had a military background your whole life, and now you're not really in the military. You haven't been in the military, but you've still got a lot of influence, right? A lot of positive influence from all of that.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. And no, I never did. I was pretty much the only one. And now my brother, that didn't go that route. So
that's cool. Well, I'm just setting the stage because, obviously Trxstle is this really cool product, and I just wanted to, it makes sense now a little bit more about how you developed this thing. So I want to take us there. So so you got this engineering, you got all this life, the cool stuff going on, and you're all around the country. Take us there. When did the Trxstle? I think that was later on, right after you were already in engineering, working for like 10 years, something like that.
Yeah. So I ended up meeting my business partner, Morgan, at a research facility. So we were both engineers designing electron microscope devices for a research facility in Olympia, Washington. So really technical work. And I ended up sort of working my way into running the machine shop side, as well as doing design engineering, kind of manufacturing engineering. And then Morgan was doing a lot of the more advanced engineering work. And then we ended up working together again after that at a company that was designing locomotives. So I was working on a locomotive that takes people to the Machu Picchu ruins.
Oh, wow.
So I was working on the design on that, and then Morgan was tackling this kind of prototype Cummins project that was a big deal in the diesel locomotive world. And so we were sort of doing that, and we showed up to work on a Tuesday, and the building was chained closed, quite literally. And everybody lost their jobs, and the owner of that company had taken everybody's payroll and fled the country.
Wow. Is this a guy you knew personally?
Well, I knew who he was. I didn't know him, very well. He was a, kind of a big money type CEO type.
Gotcha.
Yeah, apparently it wasn't the first time he had done that. And so, yeah, it was quite the shock. I'd only been there about a little over a year. Morgan had been there longer, so I was still kind of new. So anyway, Morgan and I started looking for other engineering jobs. We both got interviews and were thinking about taking them. And we decided kind of at the last minute to start our own engineering firm because we had some connections in the medical device space from some of our history, and then also wanted to try to start designing outdoor products because Morgan was a downhill racer in college on the East Coast, and like we discussed, grew up fly fishing, so we really wanted to try to work in those spaces if we could.
And downhill racing, like mountain biking?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So you guys both had a passion there with the mountain biking, and Morgan was not into fly fishing?
No, I was the first one to take him. He had never done it.
Oh, there you go. So, and are you guys still, is it you two kind of running or kind of still co-founders there?
Yeah. So it's Morgan and I are the co-founders, and as things grow, you develop a board and all these other things. But yeah, we're still the primary operators.
Oh, nice. Wow. So this guy leaves. So have you heard anything of this guy that leaves? Is that just kind of like the guy's gone and then you just kind of wrap it up? There's no more to follow up on there. You just kind of move on, or how does that look?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't, I was really, really fortunate in that I was the only one to get my paycheck because I had gotten it. I worked late on a Friday, if I remember right, and then did like a mobile deposit, and it was before he had drained the account.
Oh my gosh.
So everybody else had claims through, Washington State and all this stuff with him, and they were going after him. But I was sort of, let's just separate. And
you were clean.
I felt it was really hard for everybody that worked there. There was a lot of welders and painters and people that worked in the trades, and it was in a small town, and It was really sad. I mean, they really took the rug out from under him. So they were definitely upset. I wouldn't want to be him.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, you'd think. I guess that's the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure all that stuff circles around. You do something like that, and you're bound to eventually that's going to catch up with you. Obviously, that's crazy. Yeah. Well, let's keep it on this on a positive note here, because I mean, obviously that was a crazy story there. But talk about Trxstle. You know, maybe for somebody who's listening now who hasn't heard, doesn't know what you guys do, describe what Trxstle is to a kind of somebody new.
Sure. Yeah. So Trxstle is an outdoor product company, but we focus on carry products, and that's the best way I can describe it. So, you know, we want to be focused on multi-sport, so fly fishing and mountain biking, and how those connect, as well as how you do them individually. But specifically, we want to design, and we do design and engineer products to carry your gear. So,
yep.
You could think of it as, I don't have an interest in Trxstle designing or manufacturing rods and reels, but I want to make things to carry that type of equipment wherever you go.
That's right. And you guys have, and that's where the CRC system comes in, and the essentially, I mean, what do you call it when somebody asks you what that is? You know, some people might say a rod carrier, or what's the word you use?
Yeah, I say rod carrier. CRC system stands for convertible rod carry, but we actually originally named that the Olympian, and the United States Olympic Committee sent us a cease and desist letter when we first were launching on Kickstarter, so we had to come up with a new name at the last minute.
Oh, wow! So no Olympian, and then Trxstle. How did that? What was that? What's the name there?
Yeah, so Trxstle, first of all, there's an X in our name, so a lot of people say, Trxstle or Trxstle, I've heard before.
Yeah,
That's pretty fancy one.
Yeah.
But we put the X in there to sort of be like a beacon for the classic Trxstle aesthetic. You see a Trxstle bridge over a river, and it's got that X look from the supports. So that's sort of where that came from, and also just to kind of differentiate us. There's a lot of information on a trestle if you spell it correctly, so we wanted to sort of make it a little different. But the name itself, we really wanted to have something to always remind us of that locomotive firm closing. And we were trying to find a way to tie together Morgan and myself's background, and as well as our passions. And, we started thinking, and we had quite literally a huge chalkboard in our little office that we renovated for the engineering firm. There was a garage in Morgan's yard, and we were writing names up on the board and going through things. And Trxstle came up, and we started thinking about that, and we realized, hey, some of my favorite places to fish at the time were, in Oregon and Washington, and I'm sure you're familiar. You're walking down a river and you see a trestle bridge. It's usually an indication of a good spot. There's probably a pocket in there. There's usually some kind of tailwater right after it. So that was sort of interesting. And then talking to Morgan, I realized that most of the roads and the trails to get to downhill single track for mountain biking were old trestle, like old rail lines. Oh, yeah. So that's why we picked it.
That's it. So yeah, it connects to both the biking and the fishing. And yeah, the trestle does. Yeah, for some reason, there's something cool about an old trestle or even a new trestle, right? You're out there, I always have a couple of pictures in my mind. It's like the movie, the Stand By Me, where the train's coming, you're in the middle of the trestle, you got to run for it. But also, like you said, I mean, fishing wise, it can create some good spots there. And so no, this is good. So we got a little feel. So Trxstle, and let's dig into a little bit on the product itself. So the rod carrier. This thing is pretty like bomber. This can go on top of your car. It kind of telescopes down. Talk about that product. I know it's got a ton of features, but how do you, when somebody asks you about this rod carrier, what do you tell them?
Yeah, so I try to focus on what's so different about it and what was challenging to achieve, because I think that's the differentiating qualities. So like you mentioned, yes, it telescopes. So goes out to 10 feet 4 inches. Carries 2 fully rigged rods, mounts on top of your vehicle, and then it collapses down to about 45 inches. It's only 15 pounds. You can carry it over your shoulder. We have a shoulder strap for it. A couple really unique things about that product is that are part of our patent, actually, but we've got a reel up design. So your reels face up. We're the only ones that do that. It protects the guides of your rods, which is a fragile component. It also means that when you're putting it in or taking out the rods, you're not snagging up on the inside, which just allows for a little bit easier insertion and removal. And it also gives you some clearance for like your hatch, if maybe you have like a canopy or hatchback, and gives you that low profile to your vehicle.
And the low profile, that's the cool thing. So basically this thing is, so when you put your rods in it, I mean, you can go down like essentially like a gravel road, right? Just be bombing down, and it's going to be protected because you kind of have like a spring protected compartment, right?
Yeah. So we worked hard to find a liner system that would be soft enough to be softer than your rod, so something much softer than like a PVC plastic or aluminum or something like that. So we came up with the softest material we could, while still being rigid enough to not break down, so it telescopes out. We actually hand flare and sand each joint so that it ramps and doesn't have any like wear points or anything on the inside. And then the liner itself is mounted on springs inside of the aluminum, so it's not rigidly pressed against it. So those springs take a lot of that vibration and impact.
That's it. And then it also, so it goes down to, it telescopes out from, what's the shortest? It goes from short, and then what's the longest?
So 44 inches, and then it goes out to hold a 10-foot 4-inch rod. So the actual length's, more like 10-foot 6, because you got some built-in areas in there.
Yeah. So you could so basically your full rod, if you've got essentially, anything less than 10-4 in that range, you can get the full rod. Then you could actually extend it back in half and do like break your rod in two if you wanted to, and do that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can actually, a lot of people, I've been seeing it more and more, and it's actually some of our staff, the guys that build these, that's how they run them. So they run them on their Subaru. Both guys I'm thinking of both have Subarus, and they run it in 3/4 length, so they don't have this big thing hanging out over their windshield when they're not fishing.
Yeah.
3/4 lengths could hold a 3-weight, a lot of different 3-weights. It's about 7.5 feet. But what they do is they just collapse the nose down, because they're able to do that the way they have it mounted. You can do that while it's still on your roof. You just hit a button and collapse it, as long as you don't have a clamp on the very forward section. So you just hit a button, collapse it down, and then when you're ready to go fish, you just pull that last little bit out.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I didn't realize that. So basically you collapse it down to 3/4, which now it's 7.5 feet, so you could break your rod in two pieces or whatever, take your 4-piece into two. So that fits in there when you're doing whatever. And then when you're ready to fish, you kick it out really quick. Don't have to do anything but just pop it out, and then now you're ready to go for your 10.5-foot rod or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah, okay, so this is cool. And I've got a couple of cars, and one of them, I think, I've been with my truck. I just had it in the back, it's in there, and I've got it collapsed down. It's right there. I have a bunch of stuff back there, but it works great just kind of in the back, sitting there, and then on top. I think I'm going to test it out, throw it up on top of the Subaru, and kind of just get a feel, because it sounds like it's pretty. That right here is the good example, right? When you're traveling around, you got it easy on any car. Any car can do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, because a lot of those Subarus, you got to push it so far forward because the hatchback.
Yeah.
Just to get it, even with the reel up, I mean, you still have to scoot it further forward than some. So it's nice to not have that thing hanging over the hood so far if you don't need it to.
Hanging way over. Yeah, this is good. Okay, so the reel up, and you got the shoulder strap, and it's fairly lightweight, right, for this type of product. It's in the 15-pound range.
Yeah, it's actually really lightweight. I mean, originally I was carrying it to Alaska with me on a plane as a carry-on.
Uh-huh.
And then I was mounting it when I'd go fish there. Nice. That was like the prototype days, but I just haven't gone back in years. But yeah, I mean, I think the most comparable product's over 50 pounds.
Oh, wow. So that's huge. That's really heavy. Gotcha. Okay. And, okay, so we got the rod carrier, and that's something I definitely want to dig into, because that's obviously a big product for you guys. Now, talk about, I think you have some other stuff out there. Do you have any? I know you were talking about releasing these. What else do you guys have going these days?
Yeah, so we really popular and growing waterproof case line that I'm really proud of. So that's one area that we're focusing a lot on. So we've got these waterproof cases that we're continuing to grow upon. We're going to release another one here at the end of the year. But they just kind of, not on purpose, they just seem to be growing in size each time.
Yeah.
But
these are fly boxes.
Sort of, yeah. So like for instance, our big water case, it's designed to be kind of whatever you want it to be. So it's got removable inserts. They all have a hook and loop attachment. Um, and so, you've got a wallet insert where you can put your credit cards. It holds a phone. It has an elastic strap to hold your cell phone. Um, and so you can use it like that. And it's got a mesh bag insert, and it's got a fly foam, with fly slits in it. So you can mix and match. You can use it. I have one in my backpack that I use. It's got fly on both sides, so I use it as like a streamer box. But it's really great for traveling. And the cool thing about the product, besides the inserts really, is that we spent a lot of time designing ways to attach it to your boat. So before we made that, there was no way, like I would go like down, either I was whitewater rafting or maybe just going down even a calm river, and you always got your fly box or like your case, your waterproof case is always like on the other side of the boat when you need it.
Yeah.
Or I talked to a whitewater guide in California at a fly fishing show a couple of years ago in Pleasanton, and he was going on and on about how when he takes clients, they got to put their, wallet or keys or whatever it is somewhere safe that's waterproof. But then the only way to strap it down, all the cases only had one strap attachment, like on one side.
Oh, right.
Right. So it would just flap around and hit people. And it was always, so a lot of the guides were drilling holes in one side of their like cases and putting a strap on the other side to hold it.
Yeah.
So first thing we did is we created strap attachment on both sides and on the back, so you can really secure it down to like your raft. And then we also made a feature on the back that integrates into like NRS's what they call that, the quick clamp or the ClampIt.
Oh.
Yeah, so usually you see those on rafting frames to hold like a koozie, right? Like a cup hold.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think because I had an NRS frame a few years back. I'm trying to think of what the ClampIt was, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Usually it holds beer.
Yeah. Okay. It's the beer. Yeah. It's the beer holder. Okay.
Yeah. So they should just call it a beer holder. Then people would know what we're talking about. But
that's right.
Yeah, but so it'll click right into there, and then you can open it and use it. So you can keep your box right next to you. But we also have our own slip mount that we came out with. It's made. We originally had it made with a community college in Olympia as a part of their engineering program. It's kind of a throwback to them. But basically, you can put it on a skiff or your mountain bike water bottle location or wherever you want, and it's the same basic premise where we have a little slot on the back of the case that slides right into it, so you can mount it.
Oh, gotcha. So, and these boxes you said you have a number of different sizes. Like, what is the biggest? How big is the biggest one?
That is the biggest one right now, the big water case. We just have the two, and then the new one we're coming up with is more of a boat box size.
That's what I was going to say. So the one you're talking about now, how big is that compared to, say, like how do we, relatively, what would it be? How big is it?
It's roughly about 4.5 inches by 10 inches.
Oh, by 10. Yeah. So it's like a fly box. Yeah. So it's a fly box. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a narrow streamer box, I guess you could think of.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I was thinking of more of the big like box you'd put a camera or something like that in, but no, this is like smaller for smaller items and flies and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, we have one called the River Locker. It's one size smaller, doesn't do as much, still has some attachment features, but it's really designed to be like a lot of camera guys use it for like their memory cards or just your wallet, that kind of thing, just to keep in your bag to keep that like your fishing license safe and that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's it. And staying on those lines, like you said, yeah, the carry items, these are all carrying your stuff. So do you have anything else? I think you might have another product that you got, or that's out there right now.
Yeah. So we've got those. We've got, we've also done some other things with other companies where, we help them either with design or maybe cool. help them with manufacturing. So, I can definitely shout out to LidRig, the magnetic nippers. We've definitely helped Scott and work together with him on that product and some other stuff he's got going. But so we have all that. We have apparel. We have a full apparel line that's definitely growing. That's actually been a huge part of our business. Was surprising to us, to be honest. But so we've got sun hoodies and rain jackets, as well as we do a different artist series collaboration each year for like t-shirts and hats. And so we partner with a local artist each year and produce their artwork on our apparel. And so that's been really fun. But as far as the big stuff, I think what you're getting to is the Geryon Universal Bike Packing System.
Yeah, exactly. That was the one when you first came, when we were talking about this last year, you were mentioning this, we were talking about, okay, how do we get, how are we going to get this out there? And it wasn't quite ready, but so it's out there now.
We have accepted pre-sales and it starts shipping at the end of the month.
Oh, this is cool. And I know, and I know I was hearing a story you told on another podcast, and you were mentioning about how, like, your first shipment of the rod carriers, you had a crazy thing happen. The boat came into port, and then it got transferred up, and then like a crane fell on the boat or something, right?
Oh yeah.
So it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Your first order. So this one, you're still probably keeping your fingers crossed that everything's going to be smooth sailing, right?
Well, fortunately, yeah, we've learned a lot along the way over the last 5 years, and I feel like we've been able to avoid fires like that, so to speak. Knock on wood that there won't be a fire.
Yeah.
But probably shouldn't have said that. But no, that's not as much of a concern. We've also been able to bring the vast majority of all the manufacturing to the U.S., so that's not as much of a concern.
Oh, wow. That's cool. And that's a whole thing right there, right? Because I would imagine that a lot of companies are still doing stuff overseas for the most part, right? And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But the positive, I mean, the great thing, obviously there's tons of positives, but one nice thing about bringing it here is that now you're more closely connected. Is that, I mean, what is the biggest advantage other than obviously some of the other bonuses where you're keeping stuff in-house? What's the big thing about doing it here?
For me, the biggest thing is just that I think it's the right thing to do. That really is a huge thing. When you're something that I think a lot of people, I didn't know this, going into manufacturing when I did. And the truth is sometimes you want to make it here, but depending on what people will pay for the product, you can't. And it's hard when you're starting because it's just such a huge startup cost for tooling and molds and extrusion dies, and plus the actual cost of the parts. I think that obviously making it here is so much better. It's the right thing to do. You're creating jobs, but you're also, your quality control. You get to the benefit of being able to call someone in the same time zone as you and actually have them do like what we're doing now, or maybe they even just FaceTime and show me like, hey, is this what you meant? Like that literally just saved you 8 weeks if you were doing it overseas.
That's right. So that's huge.
Yeah.
That's great. No, that's so cool to hear. This is the stuff. This is why I love doing these founders, fly fishing founders episodes that I call them. Is that I'm learning stuff about you and about the company that I didn't know about, right? And this is all amazing stuff. And LidRig's another good example. I had been talking to Scott for a while. We made a connection a while back, and he was sending me stuff, and so that's so cool to realize that literally LidRig, you've got a total connection there with their whole process as well.
Yeah. Scott's great. And we met with him years ago and helped him design that product to what it is now.
That's cool. Yeah, I remember telling Scott I was doing some combat fishing one time, and I was like I do trying to find get to the spot where nobody else could get to, and I was like literally on my hands and knees scraping through some brambles trying to get out of this fishing hole. And I had my LidRig on my hat, and I scraped a branch and popped it off, and it was like, oh man, gone. And I asked him, about that, and he said, well, working on it now. He comes back now. They got even a stronger magnet. So it's always tweaking. Do you find that with obviously your stuff is a little bit bigger. Are you always tweaking like the rod carrier in your products, or do you kind of have a thing set and it's good to go?
I would say you're always tweaking. That's something that we're really passionate about just because of Morgan and myself's background, and we look for hiring people that are like-minded as far as those that run the shop and do manufacturing and assembly for us. The biggest thing is listening to customers. It's like you get to a point where you're tweaking, hopefully in the early stages while you're prototyping and getting it, to where it's at a complete product that's ready for the market. It's ready for the abuse. You're not changing major functions. It's all there. But then, for instance, like with the rod carrier, you find out like, oh, well, we thought that the majority of roof racks were this, but we found out that actually the majority of people using our product have much larger roof racks. So we had to, you come out with another version of clamps to accommodate, more roof racks. Or another good example is like, just tweaking the liners themselves to try to make them, like I was kind of alluding to earlier, making them a little softer, finding a way to actually, here in Helena, we take each one. It's, incredibly time consuming. Building those liners takes us at least as long as the whole product.
Oh, wow.
Possibly longer. So, we are literally by hand underneath me right now. My office is upstairs. They are, taking each joint, flaring it, sanding it, looking at it. The guys that make those carriers are all guides here in Montana,
Oh, no
either
kidding.
currently or previously. Yeah, so like they totally know what it needs to be, and they're looking for any way to make it better.
So, and tell me this is a question I had because I think, your rod is made for a fly rod, obviously, but what about a rod that's got kind of oversized guides, and I guess you could take it to the extreme, like a spin rod or something like that. Yours isn't really meant for like the giant stuff, or how would somebody know how big of a rod they could put in there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's 1.6 inches is the opening. So that's, your full, that's usually it's your stripper guide, but you're totally right. I mean, if you've got, generally speaking, when you're at an 8 weight or above, you should measure it.
Yeah.
Because anything below an 8 generally fits. It's pretty rare to find. I think Orvis had a rod for a while that has this really huge stripping guide. But for the most part, I've got like a lot of Sage 10 weights fit no problem.
Yeah.
Because they just have smaller guides for whatever reason. But yeah, so 1.6, we are definitely working on versions of that to start expanding that, and we're pretty close. We're about to enter the Switch and Euro market here for a little bit longer version.
Oh, you are? You're going to do a longer version of the carrier?
We are, yeah. And we're also looking at the Spey, and if we go into Spey, we might as well capture bait rods as well, because it's the same basic difficulty, which is that long handle behind the reel.
Oh, the long handle. So you're saying you guys are talking about maybe going into covering like a 13.5-foot rod?
Yeah, and it's challenging because you start getting that long. It's just not safe for a lot of vehicles.
Engineering, there you go. There's your challenge.
Yeah, it is a challenge. Definitely, it won't be as portable as this current version. This current version, you can literally carry it over your shoulder like a dual rod case.
Yeah.
There's certainly lighter ways to carry 2 rods, being that it's 15 pounds, but you certainly can. It's made to be stored in a trunk or a closet really easily. But the Spey version certainly is not going to be as portable. It's still going to have the adjustment telescopic functionality, but it's not going to show up as small of a footprint. But yeah, you're totally right. When you start getting out that long, it's really dangerous. You got to figure out ways to reinforce it, and probably an additional clamp or support. But yeah, actually last year on April Fools, we released a whole ad campaign where we had a friend of mine that does Photoshop work and stuff. He had made a couple of videos of a 40-foot long carrier.
Oh, nice.
So April Fools, we came out with our new 40-foot CRC.
There you go. That's awesome. Nice. Cool. So yeah, this is good. I mean, obviously, yeah, you can't necessarily have, everybody isn't your customer. So you guys obviously, the trout anglers, and that's a majority of fly fishing community anyways, right? But it's good to hear you're still thinking about expanding and trying to get more, trying to serve more people, right? I mean, that's bottom line is you've got this product, which is awesome. And how do you get it out more of the people? Is that kind of the thinking there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're always trying to find a way to obviously expand the market, but listen to what people want. We really do. I mean, Morgan and I still respond to every possible message and phone call. We have staff that does customer support and shipping and all these things. But like right now, if you messaged us on Instagram, it's me answering. I just answered a guy last night at midnight. He was asking about extra large clamp fits.
That's cool.
And so it's always us, because that's just, we can't let go, I guess, is a better way of saying it.
I know.
but yeah, so we're always trying to find ways to improve, and we've even done custom versions for people that have like a really unique like camper van setup and things that. So
that's right.
But yeah, we're just always trying to find a way to, to come out with what they want.
What if somebody here's a good question for you. If somebody has, whatever, a pickup or a van, they want to do it on the side. They want to mount it on the side. Do they just need like a couple of bars? You know what I mean? Is yours adjustable? Or is it a standard length? Like, how would they do that?
Yeah, so you'd have to pick there's 4 lengths that it mounts in. There's ways to pick a custom one by kind of drilling a hole, but we don't generally recommend it. But we've had guys do it.
Yep.
To basically have we've actually made a custom one for a guy from Sage that came through last year, and he really wanted specific lengths, so we were able to do that for him. But generally, it's 4 different lengths. But you can mount it that way. There's a company, one of our dealers is in California. I think it's called California Camper Van. Or Camper Van Adventure. I can't remember.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm butchering that name.
Okay. I think there's probably a few. There's probably a few in California.
Yeah. So they're a dealer for us, and they mount them generally on the side because those are those those Mercedes vans. They're really tall.
Exactly.
So yeah, they'll mount them on the side. They make a custom bracket, but essentially, if you thought of it as like a boat handle, like on the side, you've got like a handle that you would see climbing up a stairs into a boat or something.
Oh yeah,
That's sort of what they're mounting to, because you need a round square or some type of roof rack shaped bar to clamp onto, and it has to be perpendicular to the carrier.
Yeah.
And if you got that, you should be set.
You're good to go. That's cool. And let's go back to I don't want to miss the bike, because we mentioned the bike carrier. So talk about this thing, because this thing looks pretty cool. I know it's coming in, but describe that thing, what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. We're super, super excited. Obviously, as I mentioned, we want to be fly fishing and mountain biking, bike packing. So that's been something we've been talking about for 5 years. It's our first. We were finally introducing the mountain bike version of it. So it's been in development that whole time. We've been working on it. It was actually going to come out before the carrier, but we just redesigned it, I think 5 or 6 times now before we felt like it was ready. Mm-hmm. So essentially what it is it's a universal bike packing system. So if you're not familiar with bike packing, it's just what it says. It's basically taking your mountain bike or your bicycle and going camping on, overnight excursions, or at least long excursions for the day. So you want to bring your tent, your sleeping bag. And how I find myself using it is I want to bring my waders and my boots and my fly rods, because I used to always take my mountain bike, and I'm not a cyclist, but I would always take a mountain bike to go steelhead fish in Western Washington, whether it was the Olympic Peninsula or some other places closer to Olympia that I would go fish. That was the way I could get away from the crowds, get behind the lock gates that didn't allow motorized vehicles, and get far back. But I never had a good way to do it. One of the ways I would do is I'd wrap a bungee cord around my fly rod tube against my frame.
Yep.
And I literally almost died because I couldn't figure out why my brakes wouldn't work because I had wrapped it around my brake cable,
Oh yeah.
So basically what it is it's a universal rack. So that doesn't exist right now. So before this came out, you would have to buy a specific rack for your specific bike to carry something.
Yeah, like those old metal racks that screw into your post, and then the seat post, and they go down to your wheel.
Exactly.
And they're hard, and if you're bouncing around on a gravel road, they would eventually get loose, and yeah, they were just kind of not great. They're okay for road, but not for off-road.
Exactly. Yeah, so they have their purpose for sure, but then the other problem is maybe you want like a bag system like in your triangle, right? But you can't run that. That's specific to your frame. And if you have a full suspension bike, you can't run it at all because your suspension's in the way on your rear. So our bike mounts, like what you just said, to the seat post and the stem. So it's got standardized diameters, and it comes with 3 different inserts for your standard seat post diameters. And basically it creates mounting points there, essentially below your handlebars and below your seat. And then it has a rack system that comes out over your front and rear tire. You can kind of picture it like a fender. Mm-hmm. And then those racks allow you to strap things. We have a bunch of different accessories. So you can carry your rigged fly rod between the two. You can carry rod tubes, all your camping gear, and we have attachments that I really like. I use it for bow hunting. I'm a big archery guy, and so you can put your bow or your rifle if that's the type of hunting you do. So we have that availability as well. And something that's really unique and special about that universal mounting points is that when you do load it up, it'll hold 15 pounds front and rear. So when you do load it up like that, it's actually loading your suspension through the triangle. So instead of, just loading like the rack you were talking about, maybe you mount it to your front forks, that's just going to load the front of your suspension incorrectly. Oh. And so if you're descending, you're essentially all the play and your suspension's taken up. You see what I mean? So yeah. So by doing it this way, you're using the suspension properly.
Yeah, it's hard to get a picture of. So basically, because when you see it, it looks like a couple of fenders, and it looks like, wow, how could you put anything on that? Because obviously it's engineered to hold up to 15 pounds, and it's just what is the actual product, the makeup of the physical product itself? Is it plastic?
No, it's machined aluminum.
Oh, it's aluminum.
Yeah, so it's machined aluminum. So there's, like you said, the two racks over each tire. Then there's actually a attachment telescoping bar between the 2 points that prevent them
Oh,
from rotating. And
gotcha.
down the line, we'll offer additional attachment and bag options.
That's what it is. So yeah, so there you go. So it's that thing that keeps it stable, so you don't have all your weight on the back or the front. It's actually balanced.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. So cool. So this is going to be the big thing. This is coming out, and hopefully, hopefully by the time this episode is up there. Now, tell me, what are you thinking? When will these be where people can pick them up?
End of this month, so end of March into April.
Oh, good. Yeah. So we'll definitely, if all goes well, they'll be able to go check them out right now, and just head over to your website. This is the best place.
Yep, the website's the best spot. They're also going to be available on backcountry.com.
Yeah.
We'll have some as well. They're pretty excited about that product. And then we're also going to be at IFTD this year. So
good.
We're going to be releasing it there.
Good. Cool. Well, that'll be awesome. I think I'm going to be there too. So it'll be great to connect with you in person.
Yeah.
And awesome. Well, I think I'm feeling pretty good. Anything else you want to talk, give a shout out to that you have going either now or coming up in the next year?
Not necessarily. I guess just sort of be on the lookout. We're starting to really focus and get a little traction with, like I was saying, our waterproof cases. And then I think people are going to be excited to see the different attachment accessories that we're making here in house. So we have a lot of custom options for that Geryon, the bike packing system.
Mm-hmm.
So things like fenders, like actual fenders that bolt to those racks and allow you to like strap gear down. You can actually see on our website, you can see a little coming soon pre-release of that.
Oh, nice.
But there's we have probably 10, maybe 12 additional accessories that we've got in CAD and designed, and we're just trying to figure out which to come out with next. So
for the bike carrier system.
For the bike, yeah. So it does all sorts of things, and I think it's really going to open the doors. And I think for a lot of different pursuits on a mountain bike, and something I think I failed to mention was it mounts, when I said universally, it mounts to e-bikes.
Oh, that was. I'm glad you brought it. That was a question I had, because the e-bikes are becoming more and more popular. Especially we see the hunters and people out there. They're like, I mean, God, yeah, this e-bike, you could do all sorts of stuff. So they can literally strap onto those as well, because those are huge, right?
Yeah, they're big, but those two diameters they mount to are standardized, so they're the same as a standard mountain bike or road bike. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's awesome. Nice. So sounds like you're pretty good. Anything else on the bike carrier? I guess I'll give a heads up to that. I've got a bunch of questions. I think we'll leave these for another time. But I mean, the bike thing is really cool to me because I've got this mountain bike, which has been sitting up. I haven't had it out recently. But I know I've taken that thing, and I've always pulled the trailer when I have gear. It's like, all right, I've got the, I can't remember the name of the company, but a really nice little trailer. But again, it's big, it's bulky, it's not really easy. So if I get stripped down and actually get all my stuff on the bike itself, I mean, that just makes you a little more nimble. You can kind of go, it's just easier, right? It's a more comfortable experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I like I said, I'm not I took Morgan fly fishing the first time, and he took me downhill mountain biking for the first time. So I'm definitely the fly fisherman side.
You're the noob
of the company. Total noob. Yeah, I don't. I rode some motorcycles growing up, so I know enough to get hurt, but that's about it.
That's it.
But I really enjoy as we were testing this product. I really enjoy being able to pedal further back and either archery hunt, or primarily what I use it for is like spot hopping fishing. I don't know if you ever fished like a popular river like the Yakima in Washington, right? So there's a railroad. I don't even know if you can do this anymore, but through the canyon, you can ride. If you can get to the other side of the river, you can ride on that dirt road next to the railroad tracks.
Exactly.
But there's no way to get a car there. I don't even think you'd be allowed to if you could.
No.
So I would put that on when I was testing it years and years ago, probably 4 years ago. I would take the prototype and get my bike over there, across the bridge, down lower in the canyon, and then I would just ride up, actually. But I would pedal and just spot hop with my rigged fly rod with it, and I was just really surprised. I was doing it from like I can cover more river type of a perspective, but I was just surprised at how much fun I had doing it, because it's like it sounds a little cheesy, but it's like a different way of experiencing being along the river compared to driving your car to the next hole.
Oh yeah.
Because you're paying attention, you see more holes in the water, you actually can see fish down below you because you're pedaling slow. At least I pedal slow. So
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think there's a number of rivers out there. I mean, I can think of two really big rivers for sure that you can't take a car on, and there's a nice old gravel road there. So I think there's probably many rivers all around the country where this is going to be super helpful. And for that reason, because, I don't want to always take a trailer. And if I can just throw on and you can get a sleeping bag. I mean, think of that, right? You're talking 30 pounds, which is cool because when you think backpacking, a 30-pound backpack is, that's you can get decent stuff in there. 50 pounds really heavy, right? So you're saying you're literally getting your stuff for a night's stay, including your fishing gear.
Yeah, you put your, there's a couple photos up there that we did take them, for advertising the product, obviously, but that was actually Morgan in those photos with his Subaru and the mountain bike, the Geryon. He's actually out camping, so he went and did a night. So it's his sleeping bag, his tent, his wading boots, his waders, his fly rod. Everything. Yeah, that's what he was doing. Yeah.
That's perfect. Nice. All right, John. Well, I got just a couple quick ones, and these are kind of random here. I know you skateboarding and punk rock, right? Those are two things that you've had things in your past. Are you still? Are you involved in either of those things to this day?
No, I'm not. I still have a lot of the punk rock tattoos, but that's about it.
Yeah. So give me on the punk rock. Because punk rock to me is a little foreign as far as groups and things like that. Who would be somebody that we could go look up on YouTube and see a video that you would, that was big back in your day?
Oh, let's see. Well, I was pretty old school with what I liked, so my favorite band was The Clash. They still are one of my favorite bands. But as far as like the shows I would go to, really liked, I'll give you three. So I had some friends in a band. Unfortunately, they passed away while they were touring years and years ago, but that's called the Exploding Hearts.
Okay.
They were a band out of Washington and Oregon. And then the Addicts is a pretty good British band that's been around a long time. Did I tell you I'd give you three? Isn't that just two?
Well, we can add the Clash. The Clash will make it three.
And the Clash, yeah.
The Clash.
There you go.
All right. And what about on your skateboard? Did you have how were you almost like a pro level or just kind of messing around with it?
All right. So I have to admit something to you. So I started out skateboarding. I got okay at it. I was good enough to, board slide a handrail. Let's say that.
Okay.
But I started getting into rollerblading, and don't turn off the station after I say that to anybody. But which, by the way, seems to be making a comeback. But I've just been noticing some videos here and there, and it's been kind of nostalgic for me. But anyway, in high school, I got into rollerblading, and I was a pro. I ended up competing and
no kidding.
Very, very into it. Never went to the X Games. Was really hoping to get invited.
Oh, wow.
I skated for Solomon.
Oh, wow. So you were, damn. So you were definitely pro. Literally, I was kind of joking about that, but yeah, you were pro level in rollerblading.
Yeah, I know. It's like being, well, there's probably some funny sayings about that.
Well, it's like, think of it. It's like anytime you're pro at anything, I don't care what it is. Think of the most, right? I don't know. You're the best in the world, right? That's something to be said. I don't care what sport or activity it is. So that's pretty cool. And
well, I was pretty good for my area anyway. But I don't know about best in the world, but it was definitely fun and something that every once in a while I put on some skates to take like my nephew or niece's roll, that like the skate rake, and I show off a little bit. But that's about it.
There you go. That's it. Nice. All right, John. Well, this has been fun. I'll let you get out of here, and I'll send everybody out to Trxstle. And I just want to thank you. You are this season we're in right now, you're a sponsor for the podcast, so I want to thank you for that. It's really exciting to me because I knew, and I said this on one of our reads, is that, when I made that first connection with you, I knew right away, I was like, man, this is cool. And now that we've dug in a little more, hearing about how you're keeping everything kind of as much as you can locally and stuff like that is a really cool story. So it makes me just excited to share it that much more. But thanks again for everything, and excited to keep working on stuff here.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been great.
So there you go. If you want to find all the show notes, all links, everything else we covered today, head over to wetflyswing.com/310 310. We'll get you any of the links and all the links we talked about today. I want to give it a quick shout out to Terry Kluk. I've been playing a little phone tag with Terry lately, but I am hopeful that by the time this episode right now is live, we have already talked. So Terry, good talking to you, and appreciate you taking the time and being a listener to this show. If you want to check in with me and have a conversation, you can reach me, Dave, at wetflyswing.com. Always love to chat and find out how we can make the show better. If you get a chance, please click that subscribe button in the app of choice or follow there, and you'll get updated when the next episode goes live. Okay, I'm going to head out of here today. I'm going to let you get onto your business. And I hope you have a great day, and I hope you can connect with us on the next episode and talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.